Hey everyone, happy Monday, March 17th. It's Wisecrack's Case of the Mondays. I'm Michael Burns here with producer Henry. We're going to keep it holiday focused today. So Henry and I are going to do shots of green grain alcohol until one of us either cries, pukes, or commits. I almost said something dark on the third one, but I stopped myself because I'm growing as a person. And, what can we do other than grow? Glad to see everyone in the chat, especially some of our, old school friends. Hold on one second. All right. So yeah, we're gonna talk about some Irish related things. Cause why not? It's a holiday. It's a celebrated day. It's a day where some people in America get really annoying. Jelly Spread, he says, "Hi Michael, special hi to producer Henry because I like him." I am gonna say, Henry, Henry hung out on a stream with me on Friday and showed face, and there's like multiple comments where people were just like, "Oh my God, I'm creaming for Henry."
Oh,
So yeah, man. So that's something you can deal with. You can process that however you want to. You could, for those of you who are saying stuff like that to Henry, is it flattery? Is it harassment? I don't know. You decide. Um, so yeah, let's talk about some stuff. There's an article in NPR that came out. I guess this would have been Friday now, which I found interesting, called "Why Ireland is One of the Most Pro-Palestinian Nations in the World." And I think it's interesting because, like, when you look at the West or Western Europe broadly construed, um, and especially the West, containing the United States of America, we know that there is a broad support, often militaristic support, definitely economic support, for Israel and their military operations. We know that the last year and a half of political alignment in America and the West is largely involved how people respond to Israel's continued attacks on Gaza and people there. And it's especially a funny one because, there's a tension with, I'm going to take a sip of agua, sorry, with how Irish Americans are in particular. For those of you who don't know, who don't live here in America, there's a lot of people of Irish descent to various levels in America. There's a big Irish American community. Some of that goes back to what some would call the famine, others call the hunger. Fun history fact for you kids today. Um, the potato famine, the issue there wasn't simply that, like, oh, there's people in Ireland and there wasn't enough potatoes to eat, so they died or got on coffin ships and went to the New World. The English were still actively exporting agricultural goods the entire time the famine was happening. To put that in more blunt terms, guys, there was food on that island, but the English were taking the food while native people in Ireland were starving and taking the food to England so they could be like, "Oh, cheerio, here's a potato. I have sex with my cousin, but we're royal." So like that's kind of the situation. They're important for you guys uh, to know.
I've heard it called the famine plenty, but where's the hunger come from? I'm less familiar with that, although I have some questions, which is why I'm asking.
Yeah, there's a couple books, and I'm not going to think of the authors off the top of my head right now. One came out recently, and actually, the New Yorker last week published a big review on it. Another book came out about 10 years ago, and a lot of historians, Irish historians in particular, are reframing it in those terms to kind of counteract, those narratives. Hey, hello from Nottingham. Manol, I used to live in Nottingham. That's a true story. I lived in Nottingham for a year of my life. It was very fun. Let's be blunt with it, guys. Let's be really blunt with it. Manol, I lost my virginity, and I'm just gonna say it. We're not at 888. We're not. We're not at 888. I shouldn't have to be telling secrets, but I lost my virginity in the city of Nottingham. So shouts to that. You could say that I lost my virginity on foreign soil. So there you go. Yeah, people are talking about it in the chat as well. But that's an important thing to think about. But that's why one of the reasons there's so many people of Irish descent in America. But there's a weird thing, right? Because a lot of Irish Americans became cops, places like New York, Boston, Chicago. A lot of Irish cops. Kind of weird because cops are like the black and tans of American cultural life. Also, historically, um, you you look at Ireland as a place that has decades, centuries of anti-colonial struggle against England. Right, it's the thing that's happening over there. Of course, with the IRA in particular, we have a militarized struggle against English rule, particularly in the north of Ireland. And you've seen historic solidarity then with the IRA and Palestine at a militaristic and formal level. And of course, there is this large scale solidarity between, I don't want to speak for everyone, but between the people of Ireland and the people of Palestine, because they look at their histories and see something similar going on. Shinister says Michael not a virgin. I know that's pretty big news. So I'm gonna let everyone soak that in for a second. But a thing I find sometimes, and I come from a big Irish Catholic family, and people within my extended family have politics ranging from pretty far left to they are cops. Those are the two ranges in my family, pretty far left, and they are literally officers of the law. And sometimes you'll see this overlap between Irish Americanness and like American nationalist tendencies or, American militaristic tendencies or all these sorts of things, which I find kind of ironic. And I tend to be one of the obnoxious people in the family that reminds folks like, hey guys, if you're going to do the whole like Wheel of Ireland thing, if you're going to do the whole like, hey, IRA thing, then let's know the history. So I found it interesting that NPR published this piece called "Why Ireland is One of the Most Pro-Palestinian Nations in the World." I'm not going to start reading it, and like I'm gonna be honest, I'm probably going to mispronounce some of the names in this, and I'm just going to say it at the front. I'm going to mispronounce names, and I apologize. I'm not intentionally mispronouncing names. I'm not doing that at all. And what's up to everyone in the chat? LEB, I'm sorry that I described your family so accurately. What's up, Allie? Yeah, Sean gets it. Sean gets it. Yeah, I just always want to look through the chat and just see what's going on, but then I gotta stop at a certain point. Okay, I'm glad that you're here. Please do consider liking the stream if you want. You don't have to, but you could. Article says Dublin. When Fatin al-Tamimi immigrated to Ireland in 1988, she felt like hers was the only hijab on the streets of Dublin. There weren't many other Arabs or Muslims in Ireland at the time. People thought I was a nun. They were always like, "Bless you, sister." That's really funny. The educator and activist recalls, laughing. But when her mostly white Irish Catholic neighbors learned she was Palestinian, she says they were immediately supportive. I'm just going to say right off the bat, as an American, this stands out because I don't know. I feel like in a lot of places in the West, and I feel like in America in particular, a lot of Palestinian people, Middle Eastern people are treated pretty poorly. Says they'd say, "We know it all. We've been through that." Al-Tamimi says, "I guess because of history, the way they were oppressed and colonized by the British, it's the same thing happening to the Palestinians." Until 1921, that's how the Republic of Ireland, what's now the Republic of Ireland was a British colony. Northern Ireland remains a part of the United Kingdom, and many Irish people say their experience of British occupation, as well as their own sectarian conflict and 19th century famine, gives them empathy and shared history with the Palestinian struggle. Just the thing, too, guys, if you don't know this, like British were not like, they weren't cool, they weren't cool to the island of Ireland, like eradicating language, that's not good. Outlawing people to practice their religion, we don't love that one, a system where Catholics weren't allowed to have the same jobs as others, that's not fun. We don't like that. Let's see, going down. Since Hamas October 7th attack on Israel and the Israeli military operation in Gaza, Al-Tamimi's Muslim headscarf and checkered Palestinian kifa shawl, which might mark her out for hostility elsewhere. I wonder what there's a hyperlink on the text hostility elsewhere. Oh, okay. When you click the hyperlink, it goes to an article titled "Palestinian Student Shot in Vermont is Paralyzed from Chest Down." So that's what happens in America. But it says here, Irish people give her hugs and high fives in the street. So hugs and high fives, getting shot and paralyzed. Ireland may be a mostly white European country. Many Irish people say they identify more with the global South's experience of imperialism and colonialism. It's the same with South Africa. It's the same with South America, says Kirsten Farley, an activist with the group Mothers Against Genocide. Shout out to Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I also don't like drunk, but Mothers Against Genocide, that's pretty cool, which stages weekly demonstrations outside the Israeli embassy in Dublin. All these scars are being opened up in us, and we see what's happening to the Palestinians. A member of the group Mothers Against Genocide waves a Palestinian flag while holding a sign that reads, "Bombing children is not self-defense." I don't know if anyone saw it. Did anyone watch the new Bill Burr special? Did you check that one out, Henry?
No, where did that drop? I caught up on Righteous Gemstones over the weekend.
Oh, amazing! I didn't fully catch up on Righteous Gemstones, but I was in a similar spiritual place. Hey, Dane Danger. Yes, Michael's camera is much improved.
I like the lighting you got going on today. There's a cool side and a warm side. It's making you look good. It's giving you a crisp contrast. You're defined. But the Bill Burr special, tell me about it.
Yes, guys, I'm slowly learning. So Bill Burr put out a new comedy special on Hulu. Not ironically, but like in terms of how much uh hype Bill Burr's gotten recently for saying kind of like base stuff and randomly saying free Luigi. I don't know if anyone saw this. He did like a YouTube episode of Complex's show where they take like famous people to buy sneakers. And he randomly just says like free Luigi while shopping for Nikes, which I thought was pretty sick. Um, but the new special, like I didn't watch the last. I watched most of it. It's fine. It's like fine. There's one thing he said that hit really hard. Um, Also, I looked at him and was just like, damn, I'm just, you're a pale Irish American man with male pattern baldness, and like you slowly just become Bill Burr. Um, but in the first 10 minutes, he talks about Israel bombing and killing kids, and he tells one joke, the gist of which is basically like, if someone is attacking me and they're holding a baby in front of them, I'm not just going to punch through the baby.
Yeah, I saw
More or
that
less.
clip online.
Yeah. Shane, happy Feast of St. Patrick to you as well. So, all that to say is, in line of, you know, Irish people and Irish Americans being on the right side of things here. The right side for some of us. The article says in Ireland, that translates some of the highest public support for Palestinians. In 1980, Ireland became the first European Union member to call for Palestinian statehood. It was also the last EU member to grant permission for Israel to open a residential embassy. And Irish politicians have delivered some of Europe's harshest criticism of Israel during the ongoing war in Gaza. But, that we got to get the both sides thing. It's complicated. The Catholic Church, largely silent through the mass slaughter of Jews by the Nazis, dominated Irish life until recently, and Ireland's own neutrality in World War II still casts a shadow over its relations with Israel today. There's some, I mean, like, I'm totally fine with acknowledging. I'm fine with acknowledging the complexity of history, but it feels like in some of this article, like an editor was like, you got to say some bad stuff too. You got to find bad stuff. You can't just say stuff that's like, which is just because whenever they drop this stuff, it kind of just gets like lodged into the middle of it. I feel like the Catholic Church thing is kind of weird because the Catholic Church is not specific to Ireland. You know what I mean? Like I think if we're going to now criticize the nation for being predominantly Catholic, well, are you going to talk about like most of, or at least like half of Western Europe and all of Central and South America? I don't know. And the World War stuff. The World War stuff is hard. It gets into this in the article, but like, I will simply say that if you are Ireland during the World War, especially the early part before America gets involved, is your main thing that you want to go die for the British. And I get that it's complicated, right? I get that you're just like this little lad in Germany, he seems no good. But is it also like, oh no, they're bombing England. Let me sign up to go potentially die to defend the colonizing force that spent hundreds of years eradicating my culture and language. I don't know. I haven't been in that situation, so I don't know what I would do. You haven't been in that situation, unless you're a very old Irish man. So if there's 100-year-old Irish guy watching the stream, first of all, Sláinte, cheers to you. But, it goes on and says, so this section of this article says, in Ireland and Palestine, the same cast of colonial characters. Before we keep going, just a reminder, we're watching Wisecrack's Case of the Mondays with Michael Burns and producer Henry. We're going to check out this New York article that dropped today, that hit the streets. A thing, I didn't take my ADHD meds today, so just so you can prep for what is going to be happening here. There is a thing that academics I used to do, where like an article would come out in a journal and it would be like an obscure article on, Friedrich Schelling's ontological conceptions of God related to the overall intellectual context of German idealism. And they'd post it on social media and be like, new banger just dropped. And I would be like, dog, if you're like producing trap music or something, sure. But what you are sharing right now is 7,000 words of analysis of obscure German language philosophical text. Tis not a banger, sir. Tis not a banger. And it did not just drop. It got peer reviewed over the course of 13 months, rewritten twice, and finally put out on a journal that you can only access if you have a lot of money or you have access to a university library system. Thank you. That was an aside. So the second part of there. Oh yeah, and I was going to say the whole drop thing was a long way around. Saying we're going to check out this New Yorker piece halfway through the show that gets into Hassan Piker and kind of from looking at the New Yorker article is called "The Battle for the Bros: Young Men Have Gone MAGA. Can the left win them back?" Let us know in the chat. Can the left win them back? What do you? Oh, what's up, Drifting 305? Drifting 305 says never been to Ireland. Is it cool? It's damp. Damp. I like it though. I I like Ireland. I think it's cool. I haven't been there in a lot of years, so I think it's a nice country. Henry, yes or no? Is the left going to win the bros back in the next few years?
I mean, the bros aren't a fixed population. People age in and out of it, and I think there is a general kind of like a better focus is to generally like cast a net out of like educating and entertaining as many people as you can. But I mean, I think capturing the not capturing the youth, that sounds like a brainwashing part or something. I I don't think it's a matter of like winning back constituents. I think a lot of the right are like, 45-year-old groypers who keep harping about how like one day the administration's going to be just right and then they can finally start that nuclear family. And I mean, they're just going to get old. Uh, and
Yeah.
I think there's got to be more future minded kind of macro level considerations of what we're doing as a country instead of which consumers we can win back with what popsicles.
Okay, well, hold on to that idea because we're going to talk about it in the back half of the show. This article goes on to say a little over a century ago, Ireland and Palestine were both under British control. The latter was called British Mandate Palestine or Mandatory Palestine. Many of the same British colonial officials served in both places and left a deep impression on locals. And that's interesting. Like some of the same officials, like the same military operations, were in charge of both bases. For example, former Prime Minister Arthur Balfour, bad guy, was most famous for something he wrote after he left that office, the 1917 Balfour Declaration, which announced Britain's support for the establishment of a national home of the Jewish people in Palestine, a region previously ruled by the Ottomans. If you put a gun in my head and said, Michael, tell me 3 things about the Ottomans and the Ottoman Empire, I would simply just say, shoot me and let's not wait. But before his famous declaration, Balfour served in the 1880s as a British cabinet secretary for Ireland. In 1885, he opposed home rule for Ireland, and his disagreement with colleagues over the issue ultimately helped to topple a previous British prime minister's government. Here's a fun one for you guys. And in 1887, Balfour ordered police to open fire on protesters in Mitchelstown, Ireland, killing several people and earning the nickname Bloody Balfour among the Irish. It's another thing. There's a lot of history of British cops just shooting Irish people. It's another thing that's so contradictory and problematic about the legacy of Irish cops in the U.S. It's just like, oh, so your grandparents or whatever came to this country because of political oppression, starvation, being at risk of being shot in the street by random British cops, and now your job is to walk around with guns and potentially shoot marginalized people in a community. That rips, dog. Now, to both sides it, because I'm going to be NPR brain today. Maybe there wasn't a lot of jobs, Maybe they can only get jobs as cops. I don't know. I think that sometimes when I'm walking down the street and I see a couple cops, a couple like younger people, and they're like a nice diverse pair, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe there weren't other jobs. But that's soft. So you can tell me I'm soft for that in the chat. Another thing Ireland and Palestine have in common were the black and tans. If you ever see a black and tan, ask them to come out and fight you like a man. They were a brutal British police force named for the color of their uniforms, an infamous killing of Irish civilians in the early century. After Irish independence, the black and tans deployed to British Mandate Palestine, where they exercised colonial power over the mostly Arab population there. If you guys want to do some homework and learn some history, I played the song on stream once, but then the stream got banned from YouTube because the music video showed some military operations. The wolf tones have a song called "Come Out, Ye Black and Tans" that kind of gets into this. But yeah, literally same cops, same British cops hanging out both places. There's a direct historic correlation. A lot of the brutality of the British Empire was practiced on Ireland first, says David Chambers, better known as Blind Boy, one of the world's most popular podcasters. And that is true. There's a lot of historical writing about this that talks about like Ireland as a colonization laboratory where the British would basically test out mechanisms of control and oppression in Ireland and then export those abroad. So that's cool. It's a cool thing.
It's where they would cut up. It's where they would cut the imperial boomerang before throwing it.
Yeah. House of Ficono said, if I see a black and tan, I'm gonna tell him to fight me like a girl. Way scarier. There you go. Did someone say weed doesn't grow well in Ireland? I know you people just like powders and pills. I'm just gonna say it. Any Irish people in the chat, let me know. I feel like you guys get kind of gnarly with drugs sometimes, but maybe I'm just thinking that because I watched Kneecap over the week. Kneecap paints a picture of you guys as getting after it. Although I also think of, and correct me if I'm wrong here as well, guys. I'm going to make wild assumptions about a culture and type of people. I feel like people in the north of Ireland are a little gnarlier on the narcotics than people in the south of Ireland. But let me know in the chat. That's just the sense I have of things. But who knows? The first British governor of Jerusalem, Ronald Storrs, made that direct parallel himself. He wrote in a book that colonial tactics practiced in Ireland were implemented in the Middle East for Britain's political gain. He wrote that, this is a good line. I mean, it's a good line and that's fucked. Jewish immigration to Palestine during those years, if not to form the Jewish state, might also serve the purpose of forming for England a little loyal Jewish Ulster in a sea of potentially hostile Arabism. There's a lot of layers to that onion.
Holy shit, yeah.
A lot of layers to that little onion. Yeah, I'm stereotyping. Well, if you guys haven't watched Joint and a Cup of Tea, there you go. If you guys haven't watched, Kneecap, you should. It's on Netflix, at least here in America. Let's see. MMN Count says here's a real contradiction. Cops are reliably unionized. I don't know if there's any non-union cops, and it's been that way since the 18th century. Unions matter so much unless we say not. This is like a bag of potatoes that I don't want to open right now, but there's some really good writing on why cops and unions are not really union laborers. I'm going to give you an example. Like cops in Chicago, a lot of Irish cops in Chicago, recently defended a Tesla dealership against potential protesters. So you must ask yourself, if these are unionized laborers, and union labor should, in its most ideal sense, represent a sense of solidarity with all working people, why were the police protecting the private interest of capital over and against the interest of people? And if you look at a lot of the things the police do in America, it is protecting the interest of private property, protecting the interest of capital, protecting the interest of the elite. All of these things, or many of these things, you could see as in contradistinction to the ideal ends of the working class in general. So that's kind of an issue we get here, but I shouldn't have gotten into it. Beamish is way better, I see in the chat.
It sucks that you do have to be skittish about this because this has been defined in law by the Supreme Court, what the role of law enforcement is, and yet to talk too openly about it can be radical.
Yeah, and what's up to Ruth Power in the chat? If you're Irish in the chat today, you get special attention. If you are mean to an Irish person in the chat today, we're going to come to your house and torture you like the British tortured members of the IRA or suspected members of it. Ruth Power says Ireland is really cool now. It is very interesting. I know I've been in Ireland for a while. I need to go on a trip there. Okay. Yeah, so it says the word Ulster refers to British plantations in Northern Ireland. Storrs' idea was that a Jewish state might serve to maintain British interest in the Arab world. Another whole historical thing you could look into, the British intentionally planted a lot of folks in Ulster, gave them farmland. A lot of them were either British or like Scottish Presbyterian Protestant farmers and stuff like that to create a little stronghold there for themselves and their interest. Chambers says the idea of a colonial power acting in self-interest rather than the common good is something many voice in Africa, Asia, and Latin America have called out. Blah, blah, blah. But Ireland is an outlier in that we're a European nation. To see white people speaking out like that, I think that does have international impact. Let's read a little bit more of this. We'll post the link. You guys can check the whole thing out for yourself. Many Irish people also see similarities between the Israel-Palestinian conflict and the decades of Catholic-Protestant fighting in Northern Ireland known as the Troubles, which ended in a 1998 peace agreement. While we Irish people see what happens in Palestine, people shot dead while waving white flags. It's an immediate cultural memory. We saw that in the 1970s in Derry, referring to Bloody Sunday, when British soldiers shot and killed unarmed protesters at a civil rights demonstration in a northern Irish city. We can't turn away from this. It's our grandparents. So, there's like a lot of stuff here. I'm trying to see if anything else article really wanna hit. There's some stuff in here that I think gets like a little sus. Yeah, there's stuff about World War II, which I don't know. Like I would love to know more about the history of Ireland during World War II. It's not a thing that I have particular knowledge about. But there's stuff in the article about how basically, even though they were neutral, they did a lot more to help out the Allies. There's a cool thing at the end of this. If you want to scroll down, Henry, you can. If not, no. This is under the section that starts, it's not just politics. The Palestinians feature in Irish music and art. It says some of the region's most popular musical acts, including the hip-hop trio Kneecap, are vocal about their support for the Palestinian cause. Indie rock band, the Shan Bands, even sing about it in the Irish language. I haven't heard that. I want to listen to that band. Irish people, do we like that band? Are they good? Scrolling down even more and more. There's a thing. Oh, yeah, it says Irish support for the Palestinians isn't limited to politics. It's become a cultural movement. All the Irish bands that were scheduled to perform at South by Southwest this month have pulled out of the Texas Music Festival over its links to the U.S. Army, defense industry, and weapons sales to Israel. Several U.S. bands have done the same. Some of Ireland's most renowned actors and writers, including Sally Rooney, Anna Burns, and Siobhan McSweeney, are also part of a group called Irish Artists for Palestine. Athletes have joined in too. There's a lot of stuff there. So here, I'm going to drop the link of this article into the chat. I think there's some cool stuff here to learn about and keep reading if you want. That's all I would say. And I do think, like, especially for Americans, and I'm guilty of this too. I've been there. I've done that. I've seen things. Someone said we are never getting philosophy of again, are we? No. It's not gonna exist on the channel. But I think it's just important to what's the word I was gonna say? Yeah, to have fun on St. Patrick's Day, do all the American stuff. But it's important to learn about like the history of the culture of the country, the people that you are celebrating. I want to give you a shout out to some friends that I like to celebrate. These are our friends at Yes Please Coffee. Okay, this is what coffee looks like. As you'll see, there are no ground up spiders in there. There have been some reports. There have been some stuff on Reddit. Like there are no, you can see it. No ground up spiders in there. These are all coffee beans from our friends at Yes Please. You get 20% off if you get them via us. We literally don't get anything. It's just a cool partnership because we like them a lot and we think they're cool and it's really good coffee. And you need coffee sometimes, maybe we should be celebrating tea today, but we're not. We're not celebrating tea. We're talking about coffee. So spiders do not make the coffee do better. So quick question, do the live streams do better in ad revenue than the videos? They do not. Which is kind of why coming we're going to not really stream on this channel anymore. But this could be AI, but you can't see my mouth saying anything. Talk more about that. Okay. Hey Cheetah, it is your day. I hope you're doing well. You deserve all that's good in this world. The weird amorphous blob. Yes, that is true. That is true. Eurus, someone said, Ireland planned for a possible Axis invasion and tacitly aided the British, though things like sending firefighters to aid in the Belfast Blitz, perhaps on other opportunities for Irish ships. Okay, cool. Let's look at this article. It is from the New Yorker. If you don't know about the New Yorker, it's an elite publication for the New York. overeducated, elite, whatever. Um, you know, it's hoity-toity. It's we love Chuck Schumer. We love Chuck Schumer and lattes. We drink lattes and we listen to we who do we listen to? We listen to Coldplay. We love Chuck Schumer. We do yoga. It's for those types. But Andrew Marantz wrote a thing called The Battle for the Bros. I guess it's not kind of about Hassan Piker. He's right there. The article says by the time I landed at LAX, Hassan Piker had been streaming for 3 hours. Put in an earbud and watched as I filed off the plane. Here's a weird hot. God, this is spicy. I'm going to say it. Some of the leftist streamers, Hassan Piker and others included, that stream all the time. This is a weird thing I'm about to say. Is it weird for some of these folk who are like pro worker, pro labor to work so much? You know what I mean? Like, I get it that some people stream all day because it's the only way they can make enough money to pay their rent. But I'm just like, for the people that are literally streaming like 70 hours, 80 hours a week, I mean, maybe you just like it when you love what you do, or like you're hanging out with your friends on stream, so it doesn't feel like work. But part of me is just like, I don't know. Would it be better for there to be like standards and practices? That's maybe a dumb thought, guys. I have stoner thoughts when I'm not stoned. Okay, so this guy, the author's talking about watching a sound stream. He says, visible behind him were walls of framed fan art, a cardboard cutout of Bernard Sanders sitting in the cold. Piker's huge puppy, Kaya. That's a gorgeous dog, taking a nap. Piker had already shown off his cozy ass fit, sweatpants with kitschy bald eagle, custom pair of platform Crocs, and recounted his experience the previous night at the Streamer Awards. That sounds like the popular live streaming, blah, 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 blah. He'd begun the day's broadcast by rattling off standard opening monologue. Folks, we're live and alive, and I hope all the boys, girls, and NBs are having a fantastic one. To anyone listening, blah, blah, blah. Also then view, there were 3 towers of Zyn canisters and a Make America Great Again. The Zyn thing I don't get, guys. I'm sure some of you were Zyn bros. I say Zyn bro in a gender way. I don't get that. Blah, blah, blah. He's 33, so old in streamer years. His fan call him Unk. Jesus age. This guy ordered a lift and flipped. We're really getting a play-by-play of this author's trip. Flipped back to Piker's stream. By then, he was talking about the overthrow of the Assad regime in Syria. He cycled from BBC footage to Wikipedia. The angle he was developing was that Western journalists seemed too eager to portray the leader of the Syrian rebel forces in a heroic light. I'm very skeptical of the fucking former Al-Qaeda guy. A little while later, his doorbell rang, and he leaned over to buzz in a guest. Me! To be clear, I'm criticizing the writer.
Yeah.
It's a little much. Like, it's me. I'm the main guy. Like, it's me, Mario. I don't know why I'm Italian. But I did. He looked up from his phone to see him standing in the doorway. It's the same guy. It's the same guy. He doesn't run ad breaks. Does the SonStream not do Twitch ads? I'm 100 years old, so I just watch clips on YouTube.
I know every hour, top of the hour used to be a meme, but honestly, I do watch more of the VODs on YouTube after the fact rather than the live streams themselves.
Yeah,
which brings to question like these people's conception of like who the podcast bros are and where in their media diet these podcasts are taken.
Yeah. I mean, that is because I do think a limit of the, I'm curious what people think about this, but like a limit of some of the, they got them taken away. Oh, he doesn't do ads because he viciously supports Hamas. Wait, he didn't get banned from Twitch again, though. He was banned for a little bit, right, guys? He back now.
Is that for the Rick Scott stuff?
Oh, yeah. Guys, someone said, can you share the link? We'll in a second, or Henry, you can if you want. I'm reading a 12-foot ladder of it, so if the link I have, guys, won't work for you. This thing's funny. So the writer, he goes in, he says, I'm live right now. We can talk when I'm done. Try and stay out of the shot. Now, I'm not saying the author is implying that Piker yelled at him like that, but that's how you feel like, stay out of the shot. In last year's presidential election, Democrats lost support with nearly every kind of voter. Blah, 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 blah. The only cohort of men that Biden won in 2020 were 18 to 29-year-olds, but then he lost them. Candidates matter, so does the national mood. Blah, 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 blah. Social media election. Joe Rogan is a popular boy. JD Vance and Elon Musk, they're all here. At no point was I like, only I, a dickhead on the internet, am qualified to teach these kids why we need a functioning welfare state, Piker told me. I just felt like no one else was really in these spaces trying to explain these things, certainly not the Democrats. This is my point I was making before. I'm curious people think about this, and I feel like Henry hinted at this. Is an issue that for someone like Rogan, he does his little show, and you could watch his show on YouTube, on Spotify, on all your podcast apps. Old dudes, lame dudes, washed dudes. I am all of those things. So I'm not speaking from a place of judgment here. Listen to it when they're in the car, or they listen to it, in one ear when they're in bed with their wife, having to talk about how their marriage is going, all the sort of stuff that bros do. Whereas the streaming thing, I feel like you got to be like locked into a certain culture, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like it's like, because imagine if, and again, a bazillion people watch Soundbiker streams, and that's a literal bazillion people, and a lot of people watch the stuff on YouTube, and of course YouTube's in a middle space because you can stream, but you can have it on your phone, you can listen to it later. Um, but you would imagine if Pod Save America gave Hassan like a weekly or like bi-weekly podcast, it would be like their most popular show in like 2 weeks. Um, but is what it is. But we don't need him because we have Gavin Newsom's podcast, guys. Me and all my leftist bros are loving Gavin Newsom's hard-hitting content, like conversations with Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk, where he says, "Oh, you're right, you're right, you're right. My kids love you." God, he is the worst. Piker has almost 3 million Twitch followers. And as with most guys who talk into microphones on the internet, audience skews young, male, and disaffected, which is crazy because our audience is old, female, and very affected. I'm kidding. I see the demographics. I know who you are. I know who you are. You're largely young, male, and disaffected. And I don't judge you for that. I'm old male. So, shout out to everyone who watches this show who's not in that category. We like you the best. At the peak of his election night stream in November, he had more than 3,000 viewers. He broadcasts 7 days a week. Yeah, 8 hours a day. So I don't know. I just think he works too much. Is that bad of me to say? I think this young man works 33 years old, dude. Slow down a little bit, maybe take a bride, start a family, start gardening. I worry about him. Usually from his house in West Hollywood, and he doesn't use visual pyrotechnics to hold the viewer's attention. Blah blah blah. We know what streams look like. This author is describing them to us.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too, is like who's the intended or receptive audience here? Because it is a lot of remedial reiteration to anyone kind of, I guess, who's been in the online culture these last few years.
Guys, I mean it's the liberal elites, man. Someone said, "Come on, 41 is an old Drift King." I'm not 41. Dog. Hey, what's up, Alex Dodd? I know everything about you, Alex Dodd. Don't get me started. I have a Dodd dossier. I know things about Alex Dodd that Alex Dodd does not know himself. Kidding, man. I'm kidding. Yeah, 8 hours of streaming is doing way too much. Yeah. Still trying to figure out what the streaming sweet spot is, guys. We'll figure it out. Also, if you're into streaming, I'm not gonna tell you anything else, but open a tab, and if you've not subscribed yet, subscribe to the YouTube channel Techno Poverty. I'm saying that clear. No one else is telling you to do that but me. I am telling you to subscribe to Techno Poverty. I'll say nothing else of it for right now. Said too much. I've said too much. To get back to the article,
The bigwigs are going to find us.
Shh. Piker hates Trump. He's hardly a little Democrat. He's an old school hard leftist. On his bedside table, he has protein Pop-Tart knockoffs and a copy of the Communist Manifesto. This is a silly article. To be clear, I'm kind of making fun of the person. Many of his opinions would surely be off-putting to the median voter, but he's just one of many independent media creators with anti-Trump messages. Blah blah blah. The Bulwark. Okay, yeah,
Okay.
this is dumb. This is dumb. It just got dumb.
Yeah, I have a question about like, okay, if in honesty, if you want to appeal to the bros, I kind of don't think being snarky or like kind of down nosing protein Pop Tart knockoffs and having the Communist Manifesto is like necessary. I mean, Granted, they are like, protein Pop Tart. Like, it's a consumption item, but it's a consumption item made by this. I don't know. It shows at least an attempt at conscientious consumption, at least for your health, in a way that I think a lot of young men often feel like, oh, they're going to be ashamed or they're going to be called gay or whatever if they're taking care of themselves. And it's like, no, dude, like you can choose the healthier option stuff. Like you can be a little frivolous with it if it's better for yourself. You don't need to I don't know, be judged by the dude writing this article on stuff like that.
I disagree. I think if you have protein Pop Tarts, you should be put in a camp. um, yeah, well, I think like this article is definitely for it's like an anthropology of a certain type of person for a type of person who doesn't know any of those type of you know?
Yeah, Chris Maverick earlier in the chat when we first brought up this article, he brought up that like the bros didn't go to the right accommodated the bros. And like, yeah, there is a lot of gaudy frat boy stupid humor crap I see in a lot of like the advertising for this reactionary conservative stuff that you would not imagine 20, 30 years ago when Barbara Bush was calling Bart Simpson a bad role model.
Yeah. Here, let's cook through some more of this because we can't be on too long today. I just think it's the reason I said I got bad is because like when it talks about anti-Trump stuff, it uses Gavin Newsom as an example, and Gavin Newsom is like literally giving a reach around to Charlie Kirk while whispering "I love you, baby boy." And is he? What are we? The Midas Touch podcast beat out Joe Rogan. I've never heard of the Midas Touch. Okay, goes on to talk about Piker. He gets up early in the morning. He works out. He posts his daily his stats, so his fans can follow along. He gives dating advice and motivational speeches. At a moment when there seems to be an ever-shortening algorithmic pipeline from bench-pressing tips to misogynistic rage, Piker tries to model a more capacious form of masculinity. A straight guy, 6'4", and movie star handsome who's as comfortable wearing camo to a gun range as he is walking a red carpet in split-toe Margiela boots. Hell of a sentence. Once viewers have come to trust him, they may be more open to his riffs on the rights of the poor trans people delivered not as a primer on Judith Butler, but in the register of bro, don't be a dick. But some of this too, I find that, again, the tone of the author is like, I don't know. I think you can like reference Judith, but I think you can be smart. I think there's some of the tone of this stuff. I feel like, and maybe this is me relating to the thing Henry said about how you can't make fun of people that like protein stuff. I mean, look at me. Obviously, I've never seen a piece of protein, but I, I just like, I don't like the idea of if you want to talk to the bros, you got to basically be dumb.
Yeah.
I just don't like that. I don't think that's. I think that's a weird way to put it. Okay, so this guy pulled up a chair. The dog vetted his scent. This is a weird writer. Why you care so much about how dogs smell you? Piker talked for 4 more hours, holding forth about a bunch of stuff. Within reach of his desk chair was a mini fridge full of cold brew and Diet Mountain Dew. Some of his takes were too unpolished for prime time. Bro, these guys are so cucked, he said. Okay. Then again, a live stream isn't supposed to be a tight scripted lecture. It's supposed to be a good hang. I got to end the broadcast here, he says, shortly after 8 p.m. God, he streams till 8 p.m. That's, you know, you should be out having dinner. You should be, it sounds like a hard lifestyle. I'm not saying that being an all-day streamer makes you like a doc. Sounds tough. He turns off the camera and deflates a bit. Comments were still floating from his monitors. Blah, blah, blah. Democrats are smug and condescending. Everything they say sounds fake as shit. Trump lies constantly, but at least people get the sense he's authentically saying what he's thinking. Yeah, I mean, there's a report. I think this was from Hera Palmieri. It's St. Patrick's Day. I don't got to get Italian names right. And it was about how the Democrats they've hired Instagram influencers to teach them how to be more authentic. And this is like real. This is not something I'm making up. And like, that you're cooked if you have to hire TikTok and Instagram influencers to teach you to be authentic. Do you guys look at like influencers hawking weird diarrhea tea on TikTok and think to yourself like, well, there's the bastion of authenticity. I don't know. I don't like it. Let's see. So he puts his feet up and reaches for a fresh Zyn pouch. Young men, like a lot of Americans, feel increasingly alienated. The right's here to tell him you should be angry, and the reason your life sucks because of immigrants, because a trans kid played a sport, and all the Democrats are telling them is shut up, your life is fine, be joyful. No one's ever accused him of being a moderate, but in this case, he's trying to force compromise. My way is to go, look, be angry if you want, but your undocumented neighbor is not the problem. We're looking in the wrong direction. Wrong. In 2015, we're going back in time, where we're going, we don't need roads. The Economist Ann Case and Angus Deaton wrote that white non-Hispanics without college degrees were experiencing an anomalous spike in mortality from opioids, alcohol, and suicide. Deaths of Despair in 2016, J.D. Vance, then an anti-Trump conservative, published a memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, about the struggle of white rural families like his own. Someone should make a T-shirt of that tweet where someone said something like they get why J.D. Vance's mom wanted to trade him for a bag of heroin or something. It was dark, but J.D. Vance, he's a bad guy. Blah 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 blah. Trump stuff. Around the same time, social scientists started to notice an overlapping crisis. 21st century males were, relative to their forefathers, more likely to fall behind. Men be dumb. The title of a 2012 book by the journalist Hannah Rosen declared the end of men. Maybe that's why we're so angry. You know, the liberals writing books about how we're supposed to be over. It makes us want to fight back. The following year, The Economist Marian Fertrand and Jessica Pan published a paper called The Trouble with Boys. Oh, I'll give you trouble. Men say they don't have friends. We have a video coming out about this I'm really excited about. It's a video about Judd Apatow and the movie Heavyweights and the male loneliness crisis. And I'm not kidding. If you've not watched the movie Heavyweights, watch the movie Heavyweights. In the 15 years I've been looking at statistics, the outcomes for men have not changed. Men are bad. Okay, we're kind of taking a shot at Bernie Sanders. And 2020 book, 2020 of Boys and Men, Richard Reeves. Oh, Brookings Institution. Love those guys. Blasts Republicans for exploiting male dislocation, but he also lambasts Democrats for pathologizing masculinity. His sons, blah 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 blah. You know, his sons did a hot or not sheet. We got Bill Clinton playing the saxophone. We got Hillary Clinton. Liberals used to be the counterculture. They did not. That's a weird.
Yeah, huge lie there.
Now, when have liberals been the counterculture? You know, back when Huey Lewis and the News were the soundtrack of the resistance. Shouts to Huey Lewis. I feel like he's one of those guys who's probably like a cool guy, but we just make fun of because he did some corny stuff. Also, the Huey Lewis thing ties in with the subtle Back to the Future reference I made about 4 minutes ago. I'm really into it. Blah 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 blah. We got mad at men because they won't let us say gay anymore, so we got mad. But then the Trump administration, they
comedy's legal again.
Yeah. Democrats called men the problem. I mean, again, too, like if you look at, if we're gonna blame again like the Democrats for whatever liberal culture is, you know, it's because they always want to make economic and political problems cultural issues. And then it's almost like the opposite. The Republicans take maybe like a cultural thing and try to politicize it. Damn. I know it's something a billion people have probably said before, but
yeah, the male loneliness epidemic just strikes me as a byproduct of a economy that incentivizes everyone to be like a hyper individualist. Like there's the only real like consideration you're supposed to give to another person you see as a human being is like your spouse and your parents. And you know, blinders on for everything else.
Yeah. This article goes on. We got Ben Shapiro, we got Andrew Tate, we got Jordan Peterson, we got Dave Portnoy, a who's who of guys that if they were drowning and I was standing near them and they were like, please help me, I'll give you $1 million if you help me, I would say, sorry, I can't hear, I have earplugs in, and walk away. Last month, Richard Reeves was a guest on a popular podcast hosted by Theo Vaughn. Did anyone watch the Hassan Piker Theo Vaughn?
Yeah, I did.
Huh. So I didn't watch it yet. There's so much content. Okay, we got Vaughn, blah 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 blah. Now we're talking about. Sorry, this thing just keeps going and going. Let's see.
Yeah, it's for catching up if you're offline, I guess. And we're just terminally online people.
Speak for yourself. I had to like over the weekend. I had this moment, guys, where I Like I basically had to talk myself into putting. I was by myself Friday night, wanting to catch up on some media, and I just like couldn't stop. I was having like an episode where I was like refreshing the app. I was looking at YouTube analytic data. I was just like fucking in it. And I don't know if you guys ever feel we've talked about this before, but it was truly one of my moments where I would say I was it wasn't even like a fantasy. I really thought like I could get a hand smash. I could just smash. I thought about it. I had another thought over the weekend that was like, I think I might I feel like I'm getting closer to not being on any social media, where I feel like I'm getting close to a point where like depending on what I keep doing with my life, I just like hire someone to help out and they can post social stuff when like contenty things go up. I don't know, it just feels bad all the so this article says even as fellow streamers have drifted to the right, Pikers remained a staunch leftist. His explanation is that he's from Turkey, the Ireland of the blah blah blah. He was born. Uh, God, there's been so many articles recently that are just like the bio of Hassan Piker. We know too much about it. Where's the mystery? Blah blah blah. He went solo on Twitch, and then there's his uncle, and there's the Young Turks, and then Twitch launched. Now we're learning the whole goddamn history of that. The author first met him in 2020, covering Bernie Sanders thing. Blah 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 blah. He had a camera. He went on YouTube. He blah 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 blah. He played a video game after the 20. This is a lot. After the 2024 election, Democratic strategists argued that the anti-Trump coalition they needed a Joe Rogan of the left. Have we found him yet? I don't know. The Democrats didn't want to talk to him because he's a bad boy. Okay, I'm gonna keep scrolling down. Harris didn't do anything, and then there's Andrew Schultz, and now we're at Andrew Schultz's studio. I like scrolled 3 paragraphs, and now Schultz we're drinking tequila and THC infused seltzer with Andrew Schultz. He seems like a terrible man. Someone called him a to-be version of Adolf Hitler. Blah 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 blah. Schultz is there. He's apolitical. God, this article just keeps going. You know who Andrew Schultz is? Oh, now we're down to Dan Vagino, the FBI guy. Dan Bongino.
Yeah.
Dan Bongino. Oh my God. Schultz. Okay. This is okay. So now we're back to Piker. Piker starts streaming at 11 every morning. We're calling 11 in the morning. That's straight. Everything else happens before then. Blah, 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 blah. He plays basketball. He has a Porsche Taycan. It's not the flashiest model I could afford, he posted before I could say anything. But yes, it's a fucking Porsche. The article's just really focusing on like all the broy stuff. Like he has a Porsche. He does Zin. He wears big Crocs. When Piker is criticized by the right, it's usually for soft peddling the brutality of Hamas or the Houthis or the Chinese Communist Party. By the left, he's more likely to be dismissed as a limousine socialist who lives in a $2.7 million house. He has his own clothing brand called Ideology. Okay, I didn't know that. So I learned a new thing today. Anyone ever worn Hassan Piker clothes? He drives home. He took a call from his manager. A major production company wanted a TV show hosted by Piker in the vein of Borat or Nathan For You. That sounds terrible. To be clear, the reason I'm saying that sounds terrible is that sounds like they're trying to force a Hassan Piker to be a Sacha Baron Cohen and a Nathan Fielder, and he is not. He's a guy that's really good at talking about culture and politics. He's not like a sort of, Andy Kaufman-esque figure. He said no to Fox News. Pete Buttigieg talked to him. Blah, 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 blah. He took supplements, creatine, fish oil, ashwagandha. I take fish oil too. That's a thing I have in common with Hassan Piker. Still on the phone with his manager. Blah, blah, blah. A few minutes later, he started seeing news alerts. Luigi they got him. Mamma mia, he said on it. Okay, we're talking about Luigi. The article seems to be implying that it's like bad that he said stuff. Blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry, we're just like cruising through this, guys. There's just like a lot. recently. Okay, I'm just really scrolling down. I'm really going down. Let's see. Oh boy. Uh, okay, I can't find anything we need to talk about. Blah blah blah
What
blah.
about where
One
it
after
says as a model?
yeah. Hold on. Okay, now we're at Crooked Media. Now we're at Crooked Media, guys. Crooked Media has a dozen podcasts. Jesus Christ, this article doesn't stop. I feel like if we kept scrolling, it would never end. It would just like regenerate. Oh my God. Now we're at the gym. Jason Wen. I don't know. Jason the Ween. I don't know what it is. I feel like I'm 15 years old. Okay, the last bit of the article is, let's see. Piker said to this guy, Um, one side at least acknowledges that people are angry. The Republicans, the Democrats' proposed solutions were inadequate. Um, they ended the gym session by daring each other to take turns sitting in Martin's cold plunge. Piker resisted at first. I didn't bring a towel, a bathing suit, nothing. Blah, 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 blah. He took his shirt off. Blah, blah, blah. You're about to lose your virginity. I don't know what the point of this was. I don't know. Didn't read everything there, guys. Didn't read everything in that article. I don't know what the point of that was. What do you, I don't know, Henry. We skimmed through a lot of stuff there, but it felt more like a weird anthropological like overview.
Yeah, just following Hassan around and telling us everything seen. But I mean, we did skip over some parts where he's talking about as far as like being a talking mouth for the left. He's lacking prerequisites or something. But I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
I mean, and this is the thing, like, here, I'm gonna start posting a link in the chat for something you guys should me up today. It's homework. Don't even ask me what it is. I'm just gonna post this link and you can click it when we're done. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, skimmed a bit too much there, Michael. Guys, it was a lot. It was a lot. You know? I mean, I do think this article, like so many articles that have come out about this, yeah, Sean points out it's for normies, and that's fine. But
I guess
um
considering it's called the Battle for the Bros and it's trying to explore that, it just seemed a bit condescending or detached from really, I don't know, seeking what's efficacious about Hassan's approach. It was just kind of like looking at him in kind of a snark wonder.
yeah. Um I don't know. But again, it seems like it brought up a lot of stuff that we know. Obviously, most of us know the background of many of the things there, and of course, it seems like the ongoing issue is that um, people want a Joe Rogan of the left, and we know that one of the primary differences here is that the leadership of the Republican Party has embraced Rogan, Schultz, Vaughn, all these. Um, it's
Yeah.
not all freaks, but you know what I mean. I actually they're most, but and we know that Democratic leadership would rather reach out to like skincare influencers on TikTok than have difficult conversations with someone like a Piker where they might get challenged on what they think. Um, so, you know, YouTube watcher out of Elephant Graveyard's Rogan video. Yeah, I'd never watched the Elephant Graveyard channel before, and that video is wild. It's it's a hell of a channel. I don't know. I think this hopefully we stop searching for the Joe Rogan of the left soon. You know, I
Yeah,
think
I'm surprised how dragged out it's been, especially because like I like Lux's summation of Joe Rogan as it's not that he's political, it's that he will sincerely believe whatever truth the person in front of him is telling, and so a lot of bad faith actors get in front of him to just poison the well.
yeah. So I don't know. I just think, and of course to his credit, like it doesn't seem like Hiker and co and people in his little circle are like trying to be um trying to be the Joe Rogan of the left. I don't know who is trying to be the Joe Rogan of the left. It won't work. So the rocking chair said, Michael, sorry, you answered before. Were you with Wisecrack since the beginning, or did you join when Jared left? I started freelancing with Wisecrack in 2017. Been full time uh, early 20. Yeah. So there you go. We're never gonna find the Joe Rogan of the left. It does seem like that. I don't know. My take, not that anyone asked for it, is simply that rather than being the Joe Rogan of the left, people that are left and progressive that do media stuff need to figure out what it means for them to do stuff that is good and serves a political purpose without, because I'll say this, there's two things that I think don't work long term, and I'll tell you what. One thing is aggressively ideological, hyper left content that's basically like, unless you're a borderline Maoist, you're a cuck and a, like the real, I don't know who that's for other than people that like sit in their room thinking revolution started, I'd be crack skulls. Like you probably wouldn't. And on the other side, you have, sort of like crooked media type stuff that's like, listen, I'm a lifelong Democrat, support these guys, I love the party, I'm going to vote for them, but we need to like, hold them accountable and ask some questions. Like I think that's not going to work, because I feel like on the one hand, you're going to alienate certain people if your whole vibe is like, at the end of the day, I still want to gobble up BALSs of the Democratic establishment. And on the other side, you're going to sort of alienate people if you're like, anyone who isn't ready to like join my tanky club is bad, So, hey, we got 666 before we stop. Someone said, please get someone to monitor your chat. What's happening in the chat? Is anything crazy happening? I don't really see anything that crazy. But so all that to say is, I think that like any progressive, lefty, contenty, friggin' person or whatever would have to not play into either of those polls. And then the third thing, which we already know, is one of the biggest benefits, or the biggest things that like the right-wing media infrastructure, Hail Satan, is good at, is talking about stuff that isn't politics with a sort of like conservative libertarian bent. And I think to an extent, we might need some people who are, progressive-ish to do a better job, or to be better at talking about non-political stuff in a way that's fun. Poppy and Two Crows, Michael, what will you do when your looks fade away? When will they be here to begin with? If this isn't fade away, then I don't know. Bebo said, why can't we talk about Blind Boy or Tog Hickey and somehow create momentum or crossover with Hassan? I don't know. I feel like there's stuff going on in the chat, and I don't know, because I just have top chat. I don't have chat. Maybe if I switch to
Okay,
live.
yeah, there's a guy dropping some books. I'm catching on now. I'm removing them from the chat.
Who is it? Is it
True
Rich?
Catholic 1.
True Catholic? Hey, I'm the only true Catholic here. If anyone wants any takes on Catholicism, I'm your guy. Everything I say about Catholicism is right. True Catholic 1 is the... I'm True Catholic 0. Before we even start counting, I am the truest Catholic. Okay, guys, have a nice St. Patrick's Day. Enjoy yourself. Don't be dumb, but have a nice time. Learn a little bit of the history while you're there. Driftking 305, you're so encouraging. I like you so much. Hope you're having a good day, bud. It seems like it's a breezy, cool day in Florida, so I hope you're enjoying that, because I know it's going to get hot pretty soon. Henry and I are going to be back Wednesday,
Yeah.
Subscribe to Techno Poverty.
There may be something happening on the Twitch side with Techno Poverty tonight, but the YouTube page will have all you need to know. But also, show me the meaning tomorrow. We're talking about Mulholland Drive, which, huge favorite. David Lynch, R.I.P. Let's go.
Yeah, okay. And guys, click the link I'm posting in the chat. Everyone go watch that right now. This has been Wisecrack Case of the Monday, St. Patrick edition with Michael Burns, producer Henry. Thank you so much for being here. Ireland will be unified and free one day. Brits out. We'll see you later. Bye.